And welcome to another explosive episode of Triple Tap Tuesday. I'd like to welcome Kent and Lance. We'll start with you, Kent. How are you? How's your week been?
Ainsley, I've been recovering from illness, it seems like, for the last 4 weeks. I'm finally, hopefully, over it, and I'm just happy to be here tonight. So thank you for your patience.
Excellent. Yes, we've missed you, missing in action. How about you, Lance? How's your week been?
Oh, look, had an awesome week, getting heaps of stuff done. And just like Kent, I'm sick, but I'm that other sort of sick, you know. I'm sick of all this rubbish that's going on in the world. So looking forward to the interview tonight.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I've just got a little bit of a pre-frame that I would like to run through before we bring on our guests this evening, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope you guys are ready for it. I hope you're holding on to your hats, because quite frankly, when I was hearing some of the stories that we're going to be sharing with by our guests tonight, I was absolutely furious. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we've got another incredible person to interview. She's one of our TAP admins, but she's also got other qualifications, which I'll share with you in just a moment. The topics that we're going to discuss tonight has outraged so many people already, including those that don't have children. Yet, no, just because they have morals and decency, that what you're about to hear is just plain wrong. This should hit home to every parent that has a child in school or knows someone who has a child at school. And if you're not moved by the end of tonight's show, then I just don't know what else is going to move you. We're going to talk about all things that it is and it is not. And what you're about to hear, in my humble opinion, for what it's worth, it is not okay to be doing. It is not acceptable, and it is not appropriate either. And what it is absolutely disgusting, absolutely wrong, and it is absolutely just plain immoral. It is not something that any decent moral adult would condone for their young child. And if you think that I'm projecting any of my own morals and principles in tonight's show, you damn well bet I am. Many good, upstanding adults and parents know right from wrong. And if you think that what you're about to hear is going on in schools is okay, then I'm sorry, you need to have a good, hard look at yourself. You might think it's fun to engage in all sorts of sexual activities and explore what you like and don't like, and I have no problem with that at all. However, when you start to impose those ideologies on young children, then that is where I think we should draw the line. It is not okay, and it is not acceptable. It's a form of grooming. It's even child exploitation and child pornography. So I know we're going to have some very interesting discussions tonight. Well, you can tell that I'm pretty fired up about tonight's topic. So I'm going to get on with introducing our very special guest this evening. And we're going to hear about what she knows and what she's been involved in the topic. So Tine McDonald is a retired school principal with a passion for our children to live their lives knowing they are loved, valued, and safe. As a principal, she saw the decline of education system over decades and the growth in the depraved content of the curriculum against which she took a stand. Tine is actively involved in the Australia Project and is the Minister for Education for the Birigubba Sovereign Nation, which is one of our most recently formed nations. She heads up the Worldwide Rally for Freedom, Mackay, which is the largest, most consistently active freedom group in Queensland. And she's led the largest protest march in the history of Mackay, with 8,000 people marching against the mandates. Twice in 2022, Tine travelled to Brisbane and spoke at the Parliament House rallies against the extension of the state of emergency and the corruption in high places. Tine's passion is to protect the future of our children, to see them safe at home and at school. She is driven to expose the hidden agendas of our current education system and help make schools a place of safety for every child. Her level of motivation is driven by her burning desire to see her children and grandchildren in a world that is safe from fear. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you're holding on to your seat, because without further ado, I'd like to please welcome Tine McDonald to the call. So Tine, if you're there, please turn on your camera and welcome.
Thank
There
you.
she is.
Thank you very much. That was very overwhelming.
Just before
Thank you.
we get stuck into what you have to share with us tonight, I just forgot that I was going to share a few screenshots of headlines that some of which you shared with us the other night when we were on our admin call. And I just want to share these to let people know we're not making this stuff up. This is all in the media. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a headline that was shared with us by Tine. She brought it to our attention the other night about a 6-year-old in Texas, I believe this is in the US, who was allegedly forced by classmates to perform sex acts, and parents demand answers from the school. This teacher, there was a teacher in the classroom, she's since to be put on administrative leave. And here's another one from the same article from a different newspaper. Texas first graders allegedly forced girl to perform sex acts and recorded it on an iPad. So hopefully, Tine, you might give us some more there. But I do know you also know this particular story, which we hope we'll get a dive into. Ladies and gentlemen, beware of this person. This guy was punished, given punishment. Sorry, the mum was gutted over the punishment given to the teacher who molested her son. In fact, he molested 7 boys, and he was released in jail in a mere 3 months' time. Same guy, just with glasses on. He is a music teacher, and he's accused of molesting multiple children, and has chosen to have his bail revoked and go into custody. So these are just some of the headlines. So I'm going to stop sharing now, and we're going to delve into what you've got to share with us tonight, teens, and what you know as from the curriculum. So take it away.
Well, what got me started was obviously before I retired and I could see what was coming in. In 2020, I was interviewed by Channel 7 in Mackay, and I exposed quite a lot of the sexual content of the Education Department. The Minister for Education, Grace, by that night had got in touch with the Daily Mercury and told them I was a liar. To quote, the Daily Mercury understands that this material was not directly linked to the program and is no longer linked to the program and was addressed several years ago. My response to that was that that's a blatant lie. I knew they would take it down when I exposed it. It was on Education Queensland websites. I screenshot them. I've got pages all over the table here. I've got the evidence to this day that they were there. In fact, in looking through that again, I found that one of those links is still live. And that link is, and if you've got children with you, I would suggest you put them in another room. 50 ways to sex your friends. Here's an example of them. Year 10, I think this was. I need you inside of me right now. Put it in my mouth. I'm picturing you and me with another woman. It's so hot to imagine you tying me up, and I'm not going to read the other 46. So you can imagine that I was very distressed about that. I had a heated conversation with a supposed higher up, and I was told I had to keep my principal's hat on and not pay any attention to what was going on. And my response to that was, as long as my granddaughter has any chance of going into year 1 and being told just because she has a vagina she may not be a girl, don't expect me to be quiet. So I did have colleagues who said they loved what I was doing, but hey, if we do it, we won't get any more promotions. And that I found almost as heart-wrenching as the fact of what was in the curriculum. So that was how it all started, and it went on from there. At the same time, I received a book, and this is the first time in 3 years I've been today to name the school. And I have got the hard copy books. Year 5, that's 10-year-olds, mixed class, no parental consent or knowledge, being taught how to masturbate and why. And that was at Moranbah East State School, up here just out of Mackay. So this was 3 years ago. We know it's getting worse because we are seeing what's happening in the schools. If a boy goes into the girls' toilet, you can't do anything about it. So we're just looking at a shocking situation. The gender unicorn, which I looked at back in 2020 is still
Teams,
recommended.
we're just getting a bit of a break up from your side. If you're
Oh, yeah.
shuffling papers or something, we're just getting feedback from you and you're dropping out.
Okay, that might be it.
Thanks.
Yeah, the gender unicorn is still being used by teachers. That's a sliding scale from a young age so that they can go through this sliding scale and work out just exactly which gender they sit on. So that's how it all started. And I've been hell-bent on exposing it. And it just so happens that this year it's coming to light again in a really big way. So as Worldwide Rally for Freedom Mackay, we are naming and shaming schools. Our first one was Proserpine State High School.
Can I make an observation?
Sorry?
Can I make an observation?
Yes.
You went to them with a legitimate complaint and you said, look, here's what's on. And they never apologized. They said, we've taken it down.
No, they said it was never
in the
there.
first place.
There, wasn't there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why was it there? That's where the crime starts, you know. That's the intent right there. They can't say, oh, it wasn't there. You've got the screenshots, you've got the evidence. You know, you're dealing with absolute scumbags. But I'm going to suggest to everybody that as horrific as it is, this is bad people showing bad intention. And we need to realize how bad their intention is. And it's not limited to medical practice. This is a holistic attack on the family unit. This is a breakdown of society. And so we've got to attack this on many fronts, not just one front. So, you know, these guys, like it or not, worship Satan. And so they're attacking God, the creator of heaven and earth. That's who they're attacking. So we don't win this unless we're defending the creator of heaven and earth. That's the only way, because we're in a war, and it is a spiritual war. And all we're seeing is a manifestation of evil. So it's really obvious how we combat evil, I believe.
Teams, do you think that, because I'm sort of lost for words, because I mean, obviously I don't have children that are at school, and I'm just wondering how parents, if parents know about what's going on in these schools, like what's been mentioned, and if they don't, how can these parents get actively involved and start standing up and pushing back against this? Because I'm sure that any parent in their right mind out there that has children that go to school would find that some of the things that we're hearing that you've just described is just not acceptable. So what can they do to push back? And if they do know about it, why aren't they pushing back?
Well, it's a very good question. Mostly, I believe parents don't know. The letters and emails that go home telling the parents how they will be addressing these sexual, I think sociology they call it, relationships is very, very whitewashed. So if you were to read it, even as a teacher, you'd think, oh yeah, that's okay. And so as we have exposed at Proserpine State High School, a Year 8 student came home to her mother and told her what she'd been shown in the video. And the mother has been to the school and asked to be shown the video that was given to her child, and they will not show her. The best they've done is to give her a long EQ document. Anyone who's in EQ knows what they can be like, with lots and lots of links to it. She hasn't got a hope of finding it. So schools are not wanting parents to know. Another thing some schools are doing, parents are telling me, is that they're saying, keep your workbooks at school. You are not allowed to take them home. So they don't want home to know what is going on. At Proserpine State High School, the Year 9 students, Year 9 boys, they actually were shown a video. I'm just trying to find that. Yeah, they were shown a video that I've actually seen, and they were told in that video that incest and pedophilia is only wrong because our society says it's wrong. And I'm quoting from here, and it says, It's okay for young boys to give sexual favours to older men. For example, among the Sambia of the Eastern Highlands of Papua New Guinea, young boys perform oral sex on and ingest the semen of older men as part of a rite of passage to adulthood. Now, is this appropriate? 14-year-old boys, they shouldn't even have to think about this, but to be taught this in school. So we're promoting pedophilia. It's being promoted, and a letter was sent to that school as well saying that you are promoting pedophilia. So incest is only wrong because our society says so. So what they're saying is, let's change society and make it okay. If you're a boy like this young boy in Serena and his mates who have all been molested by their music teacher, or if you're a woman who's been raped, I can tell you, not one of those people is going to say make it normal, make it acceptable, because
I
it's
want to
not.
join in. Sorry, Tine. I want to join in and make a comment about what you just said. Society, incest, pedophilia, all that, it's only wrong because society says so. Now, rather famously, there was a judge in the Sydney Morning Herald back in the 1990s who said to Australia, community standards are changing, and now there are many people in Australia who feel it's all right for a man, an older man, to have sexually intimate experiences and sexual activity with young boys. Okay. And this was on the back of the New South Wales Police being shut down from investigating high-power government authorities who had been videotaped in a brothel in Sydney, boys 10 to 14 years of age. Rather famously, a couple of those men were past prime ministers, etc. And that information has been sealed up, and that's what John Howard did. John Howard sealed that report, barring any investigation into it. Now, the question they're raising here is incest and pedophilia is only wrong because our society says it's wrong. And maybe if our society says it's okay, then it should be accepted. Let's explore that for a minute. I think the reason murder and rape is wrong is because our society says it's wrong. And we adopted those principles and those laws straight from the Bible and straight from thousands of years of experience. We knew it was wrong to murder people, just like we know that it's wrong to damage the mind and the emotions of a small child by exposing them to this type of reprehensible, disgusting activity. And so what I want to say to these people is, if they can get enough people to say that it's all right to molest children and pedophilia is all right, I would like the equal opportunity to canvass the population of Queensland and Australia and get them to say murder is acceptable for those people who do this to children. Now let's look at societies around the world. Let's look at Papua New Guinea since they raised it, right? So we've got tribes where incest is happening, and many of these tribes, they're backwards, okay? Many of these tribes who do that have also only just stopped eating other people, cannibalism, okay? And now let's look at the murder situation in Papua New Guinea. In Port Moresby, we've got gangs who murder people for loaves of bread, and they think it's okay to do that. We have to ask ourselves, is that the society we want to live in? And I think most people are going to say, no, we don't want a society where murder is acceptable, and we don't want a society where pedophilia is acceptable. Your thoughts on that thought process? What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. It's the thin edge of the wedge, isn't it? You bring one thing in and it just leads to, and this is how we've got here, Kent. We've got here because incrementally, over a long, long period of time, the moral, the moral standards by which we live have been broken down. And that's how we've got to where we are. So we say this is okay. It's only the next step to murder. That's how it's happened. That's how we are where we are. And people have not spoken up.
I've got a couple of questions for you from a couple of our viewers already because they've jumped in early if this was going on for 3 or more years, or has been going on for 3 or more years, what would they be actually teaching now? And another question is, who approves this in the curriculum? Do individual schools have the right not to teach this?
No, they don't have the right not to. If they're like me, they just don't. But that was not acceptable, as I was told, because I actually was quite vocal about it. And I will tell you how that came up. I got an email across my principal's desk asking me by which pronoun I would like to be referred. Miss, Mrs, je, a whole list of them. And I wrote, I didn't have to do, it wasn't a mandatory survey. I wrote back and I said, I will absolutely not take part in this. So I had a higher up ring me and said, do you know, you didn't have to answer that email. I said, I wanted to. I want you to know how I feel. And he said, do you know who sent that out? And I said, no. He said, that was straight from the Director General. I said, well, that's good, because now he knows how I feel and others should be telling him as well. And that's when he said, you've got to keep your principal's hat on and just do what you've got to do. And I said, no, not happening. Not happening in my school. And I just wouldn't. There were pages I can say now, I actually took out of their workbooks back then. I took them out. I didn't want to teach.
Good on you. Is the unicorn sliding? Another question. Our listeners are coming with all sorts of questions for you tonight, so there might be quite a few interjections here. Is the unicorn sliding gender scale part of the curriculum at all primary schools? Do you know?
I couldn't tell you that now. I know that 2023 it was. In my research on that, I've found out that a lot of teachers still use it, but whether it's actually in the curriculum still, I couldn't say. But we do know that the children are being taught from kindy 4-year-olds about changing their gender, that their gender has nothing to do with their body parts. It's who you feel you are. And we know that is happening. So even if it's not in there, it's still being taught. I hope Grace is on this tonight.
And the questions, they told you thick and fast, so you get sick of hearing my voice tonight. Is there any information or evidence about what is currently being taught? Where would one go to find that information?
Okay, very difficult. And that's if one thing comes out of this interview tonight, it's to get teachers and parents to start to speak up. Do you know what? I wasn't going to share this, but in 2001, I lost my job because I was a teacher, wasn't a principal, I was a teacher, and I took a stand against a moral issue in our school. It was a private school. And when I went to the Australian board, I had to go down to Sydney. They were absolutely on side with me, but they immediately said to me, you know what this means? I said, yes, they're going to sack me, which they did. I was a single mother with a mortgage. And I can tell you now, it was God that got me through. It really was. But we have to make a stand. There is always a way. So teachers out there, stand up, take a stand, refuse to teach it, expose it. If you're not game enough to do that, send it to me. Ainsley will give you a phone number. Send it to me. Send it through Messenger. If you want to be anonymous, you can. Parents, if anything comes home, please, will everyone keep this phone number? Ring us and we can follow it through. There's your phone number. Please write it down and keep it, because you just don't know. And when you go to school, and if you ask, I want to see the video, and the teacher won't show you, you sit down beside her desk and you do not move. 3 o'clock, you go in there and you sit down. 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I don't care. If you live close to me, I'll come and sit with you. But you do not move until they show you that video, and have your child with you to confirm that that's the video, because they will try and show you something different. It's horrendous what's going on. And I'm telling, all of this is from current experience within the last 2 weeks.
Just for those who may not have been watching the screen then, that number is 0491 016 141. That number again, 0491 016141. We will repeat that towards the end of the video. That's the number that Tine was referring to take some action.
Tine,
Okay, yeah.
how ironic that they use a mythological creature like a unicorn as a symbol for gender fluidity.
Littlies love unicorns. They love them. My granddaughter loves them.
Yeah,
yeah. And then they've got the gender fairy that came in years ago to 4-year-olds. The gender fairy is, I think, a little boy that doesn't want to be a little boy, and it's this beautiful, beautifully illustrated book for little children, you know, of this little boy transgendering to be a little girl. That's go and have a look in your library, get some names of books, and message me. Worldwide Rally for Freedom Mackay Messenger. I'll give you some names. Go and check out your school library, your local library. This is probably a good time to talk about Mount Tambourine Library, is it, Ainsley? At Mount Tambourine, what's the T? In the junior section, we're talking littlies, you know, preschoolers. And it's about transitioning. It's written by a transgender. And it actually teaches these tiny little children with photographs of beautiful children's pictures, how to have anal sex in this book. It teaches them how to transition without my parents' knowledge, for the ones who can read. And the police arrived and asked him to leave. Obviously, someone called. All he was doing with this man sitting there quietly videoing the book. Yeah. And the police asked him to leave. He said, on what grounds? And he said, oh, they said, get this is what they said. If your presence antagonises people, you have to leave. And they actually had to ask the librarian several times, will you please ask this man to leave? So that they could put him out.
We won't spoil too much of that story, teens, because we do have that man on next week.
Well, the interesting thing is, I was looking into some other ones today. Nine queer, and that's the word that was used, 9 queer events, mostly drag story times, have been cancelled in the last 6 months in Melbourne because of parental uprising. Rise up, parents.
We've got one on Wednesday here at the City of Perth. Somebody posted it up and people did some outrage about it. And they said to email the Nick Goran, who was a Christian politician. I did actually post some stuff up on Tap to get the people of Perth, inspired or fired up about all of that. And I decided that, well, if I'm going to put that up on Triple Tap as a call to action for people to get fired up, I better get damn well fired up myself. So I did email Nick Goran. I emailed Basil Zemplis, the Lord Mayor of Perth. I emailed the CEO, Michelle Roberts, of the City of Perth, and I also CC'd in the Perth Library. So there's going to be a large number of people, I believe, turning up tomorrow. And I did ask them, I hope that they had enough security, because according to what I've seen on social media, there's a lot of people that are outraged about that going on.
And then they're called the far right problem people. That's what they're called. Yeah.
Look, I think it's worthwhile noting. I think it's worthwhile noting that the exact things that are happening here in Australia are happening in all the Western countries of the world. And I mean the exact same things. In America, in England, New Zealand, Australia, etc. All these countries that we're associated with, parents are beginning to have a total gutful of our government. And look, I'll put this in perspective, because the question was asked, who's responsible for putting this in our schools? That is Anastasia Palaszczuk in Queensland. It's Perrottet in New South Wales, etc., and go around the list. It is the premiers and the politicians who are in power, and it is the bureaucrats. They are responsible for what the government spends money on and what the government sets as curriculum for these students. You cannot argue it any other way. I had a good think about that. And I compared my statements to incitement for violence and defamation and everything like that. And nothing that I have said there qualifies me for any offence whatsoever. These are the people who are responsible for it. Now, that's going on across the world. And I can tell you right now, look, the statistics are in. This is over and done. And I know that it's been over and done with for the last 30 years, but these, and I'm going to call them morons, these morons will not give up on trying to teach our children to become sexually damaged and to become sexually depraved. That for some reason, they just won't give up on it. Now, they're not doing any good in the community. When you talk with child psychologists, and I'm going to quote Justin Coulson here, for those of you who may know or might not know Justin Coulson, he's a wonderful child psychologist, PhD, a well-published author, and he's been all over the Australian mainstream media and is well recognised. And I can tell you, because I know Justin personally, I know his whole family, and I've known them for many, many years. When I talk to Justin Coulson about this stuff, Justin says, Kent, it's disgusting. It's so wrong. And it does so much damage to children. So we've now got principals who tell you, and I'm just repeating your words here, they tell you, team, we know you're right and we love you for speaking up, but we can't speak up because we'll never get promoted. And those promotions are dished out again by our government, by our political leaders, by these bureaucrats. Why are they so interested in damaging children? The statistics are in. When your child is little and is ready to know about sexual intimacy, they will come and ask you about it. Certainly, if you're an engaged parent, they will. You'll be given that privilege. Justin made sure I was ready. I asked him and I spoke with other child psychologists. I had the books on hand. I was ready to go. With the most amount of love I had, I taught my children about intimacy and about, safety and love. And I can tell you right now, those principles of how we teach children who are our children, and we've got the right to teach our own children, and the schools don't have the right to interfere with that parent-child relationship. It's just bloody wrong. It's wrong of them to do that.
What was the name of Justin again? We just have somebody asking. So who was it?
Justin Coulson, Coolson, Justin Coulson. I might have just misspelt Justin's surname. I'll just check it up right now. He's an author, well published.
While you're looking that up, teams, can you just talk about the blue cards in the school? Someone was asking, can you talk about how useless they are? What is a blue card? What is it?
A blue card is a card that it's like a driver's license shape, and it just means that you've never been convicted of any child sex offences and you're safe to work with children.
Oh, okay, so that's like our working with
volunteers coming in. If volunteers are coming into your school, or anyone must have a blue card to work with the kids. So, and again, this is 3 years ago. I can't see that it would have changed, but at that stage, if I had a volunteer coming on board, I would do all the paperwork. And from the minute I put that application into the letterbox, I could have that person in my school. I didn't, but a lot of people principals are desperate to get help. So then you've got probably 6 weeks until they are confirmed as okay. And in that 6 weeks, you can have them working in your school. Like, what sense does that make? The minute you put it in the slot of the letterbox, you could let them into your school.
James, how strict is the process when one goes to, like when they're qualified as a teacher, then steps into a school? What kind of a strict process is there for them, background checks on them and whatnot before they're allowed to teach in schools, or is there any?
I actually couldn't tell you now. I know that the grads I had already had a blue card. So and I may be wrong, so correct me if anyone knows any different, but I think that would just be checking that there was no official charges against them in that area. That would be it. and then that would be all covered. And again, that, well, like this one in Serena, he was teaching, so it's not foolproof by any means.
Interesting question. Someone's just asked, are Christian schools included? I guess they would have to be,
Oh,
wouldn't they? All
absolutely.
schools. No
Well,
exception.
I can tell you it was a private school I lost my job from. It was supposedly a Christian school. Yes.
Here's another question.
I do seem to remember someone rather famous saying, woe unto those who hurt my little ones. It had been better that they hung a millstone about their neck and cast themselves into the depths of the sea. Have they forgotten that, Tine?
Was that George?
Probably haven't read it.
That was not a pedophile who said that, mate. That was the carpenter of Nazareth who said that.
Maybe it was Tony Abbott or every prime minister since the Woodrow Commission who's covered pedophilia. I've been chastised here for laughing. I don't think this is funny. What I find is the ridiculous behaviour of the bureaucrats, and do you know who that email come from? Well, I don't really give a shit, but if you want to tell me, I'll listen. Oh, it come from the Director General of Education. We need to be bloody minded about this. We need to, when we find information like this, we need to record it. We need to put it aside. The change will come. When the change comes and you've got an honest system of jurors and an honest system of policing and of governance, we can bring these complaints forward and we can go and get these losers, sonic filth, most of them who have been infiltrated into these positions, and we can prosecute them for these crimes. That's how we become effective. Now, we don't want to go out and vigilante these people, right? We need to stay within the law. As horrible as what they're doing, we need to have a process. There needs to be a system of justice, and they need to be dealt with. They're despicable crimes, but I'm telling you that we live in a time where society will separate, and we will choose a side, and we're in that process right now. We're picking a side. Now, I know that the people in here are on the right side, and we're the lucky ones. Believe me, we are the lucky ones. So they are exposing themselves like never before through programs like the unicorn sliding scale. Sorry for laughing. I find it ridiculous that this is where society has to come to before the majority of people get their heads out of their ass. Clearly, with the pushback against these weirdos, men dressing as women and whatever, doing shows for kids, right? Trannies. The parents don't want that. And that's indicated by people going there and saying, we don't want this for our children. Now, that's not radical extreme right? That's just ordinary, decent, honest people. People are very reluctant to protest. So when they do protest, that they take the situation very seriously. So this is a very serious subject. And I'm glad. If anyone knows where there's trannies dancing in front of kids, I'm happy to go. And we can be the noisy ones.
Yeah.
James, I've got some more questions for you because they're coming in thick and fast at the moment. Is it possible that the schools are paid for getting this stuff into the system the same as all those COVID payments?
Hadn't thought of that, but yeah, anything's possible.
What about this one? As a principal, you as a principal, are there laws about content the school can teach without parental consent?
Well, put it this way. If I were to show a video, like the kids have worked well, we're watching a video the day before holidays, I can show them a G-rated movie. I cannot show them a PG-rated movie unless I have permission from each parent, like a parent from every child. However, they can come in to a classroom and be told there are 62 genders, and you can, mind you, when they're telling them they can transgender, it's still only male to female and female to male. So what happened to the other 60? They can be told all of these things, Our little year threes can be asked who they want to have sexual experiences with, but as a teacher, you can't show a PG movie without parental consent. This shows how cunning and how deceitful they are being to deliberately keep parents in the dark. And again, I shout out to teachers and principals, stand up and be counted. What is a promotion compared to the lives of these precious little children? We get one shot with our kids, one shot, and no one else has the right to stuff it up for the parent. That, you know, they're going to make mistakes. We all do. They don't need teachers getting on board and making them even bigger. Yes, I'm passionate and I'm angry. I'm angry with teachers and parents who are just doing it. Oh, I feel bad, I shouldn't do it. Well, don't do it. Just stop and say no. You can. I did it. They can't sack you. They won't sack you.
Couple more questions. Sorry, guys, there's just lots of questions tonight. We've had probably the most questions we've ever had on a Triple Tap show. So this goes to show it's a friggin' important topic and people want to know these answers, Tine. So well done. Is the blue card similar to what we have over here is the working with children's check, where it's up to the card holder to report if they're no longer eligible to hold the card? And if so, can you see these people reporting themselves for not being eligible to hold a card?
Well, I think the blue card and the working with children card is the same.
Right.
I don't really know the process of whether they can no longer hold a card because I never had to go through that.
Right.
I can't really answer that.
And another question from another avid listener, is this part of the reasons why phones might be being removed from schools?
I don't think so, because they're showing them the pornography anyway. I think it's, you know what, it's more likely to be get rid of the phone so I can indoctrinate you without you being distracted.
Yeah, that's it.
The
teacher wants control in the classroom, so they take the phone out of the way, and then they can tell them all this shit.
That's
it. It's atrocious. It's
stop distractions.
Yeah, stop distractions.
Clearly,
we had a teacher.
I was go ahead. No, I was just going to say, clearly they didn't have control of the classroom in Texas.
Oh, no. And going back to that, you know, I don't even like thinking about the details of that. But that little girl, I can't even imagine how she was bullied and intimidated and forced to give oral sex to a 6-year-old boy. Like, what has she been through? It's not something a little 6-year-old girl thinks of jumping under the desk and doing. She had to be forced, unless she was from a shocking home where it came naturally. Well, God help her either way. It's terrible.
It's not the sort of behaviour you would expect in a supervised classroom environment to happen. So there's obviously negligence. These teachers have a duty of care. And they need to consider that. And they're blurring the lines at the moment, I believe. So they need to look at where they cross the line. We know a very good lesson from our scumbag government that led all the doctors to believe that they would be indemnified. And then once it was too late, they said, oh, sorry, guys, we couldn't indemnify you. You did that on your own. Now, they're going to do the same to teachers, right? If teachers get found guilty of grooming through these processes, do you think that Director General of Education is going to stand up behind them?
Oh, you'll get no support from EQ.
Exactly.
No support from them at all.
So this is the other lesson to teachers.
Nor from the union. So be aware of that, teachers.
Yeah,
if you're
cover
in
your back.
You won't get support. No,
because the government is famous for leading people up the garden path. Okay, I've got a rhythm for everybody. How do you know when a politician's lying?
Yeah, their lips are moving.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Hey, listen, in preparation for this interview, Tine, and guys, I went through the legislation in the criminal code for grooming. Now, material doesn't have to be sexually explicit material. It can just be material that's being used to advise children to participate in a sexually explicit activity. Now, having read that legislation, and I'm going to go over it again quite a few times, and I'm going to piece it together, because I'll tell you, the way it's very poorly written legislation, really poorly written, very unclear, deliberately written to be confusing. But that's okay. A little bit of patience. I'll pull out with proof exactly what they've said, and I'm going to detail it. I'll get Ainsley to throw it up on the Australia project, so we've got a reference to that. And Tine, I think the books that they've written and this stuff that they've written, I think it actually genuinely is the commission of a crime. I'm not going to say that categorically yet. I still have to go through the act, but I believe what they've done at this stage. I genuinely believe what they've done, Education Queensland and the councils that are putting these books into the council libraries around the place, like advising young children on how to have anal sex, that, in my opinion, I believe that is a criminal offence, the criminal offence of grooming. And I'm going to write a letter once I've put that together. I'm going to demand the QPS, Queensland Police Service, explains to me how it's not grooming. And I'm going to quote the legislation to them, and I'm going to demand an answer back from them. I can't wait to see what they give me, because I'm going to post it on the Australia project. It's
Kent, I'd like to share, thanks to you, Lance, you sent this to me. I quickly saw this just before the show. The Criminal Code Act of 1899, Section 210, the indecent treatment of children under 16. Any person, I'm just going to read the highlighted part that was given to me. Any person who, without legitimate reason, willfully exposes a child under the age of 16 years to any indecent object or any indecent film, videotape, audio tape, picture, photograph, or printed or written matter, or without legitimate reason takes any indecent photograph or records by means of any device, any indecent visual image of a child under the age of 16 years, is guilty of an indictable offence.
Now, is that the Queensland Criminal Code, Ainsley?
Yes, it looks like it is. Yep, queensland.gov.au.
Taking action.
So they repealed that section and they modified it, and they modified it in 2020. But I still, now get that team, they modified it in 2020. All right. And they've made it really confusing. Okay. But I still think what those books and stuff, I still think that qualifies as grooming. And if those books get to a child that is under 12 years of age, the penalty's 14 years. If it gets to a child under 5 years of age, the penalty's life. So, Ainsley, thank you for bringing that up, because what you just read out, that's the basis of the law. And that's the basis of the law that I was trained on as a copper. And they've changed it, because under those laws, Queensland Education, you get this, under those laws that you read out, Queensland Education would not be allowed to put this crap into the schools.
I've got a funny feeling, and we will touch on this next week, hopefully with Trumpet Dan, that the coppers that he was speaking to very seriously are starting to look into now whether that is that, and hopefully he will share more with us next week. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the end of these discussions. We're going to continue these discussions next week. We've still got another 10 minutes to go on this one, but we will be bringing on, extending these types of discussions next week. So it'll give you guys a chance to jump on and keep these discussions going.
Look, I'm going to make a statement about the police, right? These guys have to be forced to take a breath for themselves. Okay, they're not going to investigate that. Let's be realistic. If we're serious about this, if these people are breaking the law, our only option is private criminal prosecution. And we just get together as a group and we pick someone who we really don't like, and we destroy them. And that's the best way to put the shockwaves through the whole community. And that's what we need to do as a community, is hold these people accountable. Now, if we have to completely destroy somebody's life to do this, we save the children's lives.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
It's the best thing to do. You got to be bloody. You got to go for the low hanging fruit. The coppers are never going to do the right thing. It's just not their MO anymore.
Yeah.
It's not their MO, and they're just like those teachers and principals that Tine has told us about. Look, we agree with what you're doing and saying, but we won't get promoted. I mean, they're prepared to just let this happen so they can get a promotion.
No, just defies belief.
Guys, do we go back and we do what we did at the very beginning when I first started with TAP? You guys had massive campaigns with the emails, letters, cease and desist notices, putting different categories on notice. Is it time now to bring some of that back for these teachers that are doing that, a very strongly well-worded one, and start putting some of these teachers on notice that they will be held personally liable if they continue to teach this stuff, and get people actively involved again?
Look, the letter campaigns are extremely effective. I love them. I would rather swing the sword rather than the pen this time. And I would rather find someone with some low-hanging fruit, and we get together, we fundraise, and we nail them to a cross.
Yep.
And we make a good example out of those people. That's the best thing to do.
Tine, you seem to be agreeing with that.
Oh, absolutely. I think the time for just writing letters is over. We've got to see that. We've got to see them go down. We've got to. And this is why, parents, we need you speaking up. Teachers, if you are in a position, I know that there's a teacher at Proserpine State High, and he's in the newspaper, so there's no secret. He was disgusted and he did not want to, but he did it. He had to ask his 14-year-old students to draw a picture of their ideal sexual partner. Now, teachers, if you get that gut feeling of, I don't want to do this, don't do it. Don't do it. Pass it on to us, because guess what? Then it goes to the principal and you will not be held accountable. So start speaking up to save your own skin, because we're after you. We are after you. And God help any teacher who parents come to us and report, because we won't lie down and let you get away with it. But it's just such a shout out tonight. Parents and teachers, speak up. Teachers, speak up to save your own skins. Principals, if you refuse, it goes to someone higher up, like the wonderful person that told me to keep my principal's hat on.
Let's get some feedback from our listeners here tonight. If you are outraged by what you're hearing, guys, just drop a few comments in the chat there. Let us know, what do you want to have happen to these people? Teens, you might be able to answer this one. Can we get a central location to find all the collected information that we can direct parents to? Is there some form of
on that
central
phone number.
location? Okay, that number
phone
again.
number, or
just let me repeat it again, teens. 0491 016 141. That number again, 0491 016 141. What was that one about? Worldwide Rally?
That's our Worldwide Rally for Freedom phone. A lady called Rhonda has it, but she will put you directly in touch with me. I just don't want to put my number out publicly tonight.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or you can message us on our Worldwide, the name is Worldwide Rally for Freedom Mackay Facebook page. Send us a message. I check that every day. Send me your phone number. I will ring you, and I will. If we have to get a team of people to start collating all of this, so be it. I don't care. This is what we have to do to save the kids.
Here's a nice little comment for your team. Sorry, Lance. Your principles are worth more than your principal's hat, says one viewer.
That's true. Very true.
I love it. I love
it.
Look, I think we put this idea out there that TAP is connected to all of the awesome groups in Australia that are doing good work. And we could make this a joint venture where we just simply find an honest bar member Jesuit scumbag that will do the right thing and will run a criminal prosecution against these scrubs. And we don't make this a TAP initiative. We make this an Australia-wide freedom movement initiative where we go hunting for possum and we get ourselves a skin, because nothing screams like success. So I think we owe it to ourselves. We owe it to the children. We need to make an example. They've crossed the line. with this rubbish.
They have crossed the line. They
Yeah.
absolutely have crossed the line.
So if we could like get support for that, I would be keen to build a program where that can all come together, because it's going to cost money, guys. You're talking about top lawyers, top barristers. It's not going to be cheap. You're going to run probably a 10-day criminal prosecution. We're probably going to need $300,000-400,000. So we got 2 or 3 million freedom warriors in Australia. It's not a big commitment, but we need to include all the decent people, not just keep this as a TAP initiative, but put it out there. And things like this can build community and bring everyone together. So I reckon we should look at that sort of a project.
And sorry, share this so people will listen to it tomorrow. Now that you know what's being said tonight, share it to everyone you know. If they unfriend you, big deal. Just send it to them. We've got to get it out there.
Oh, if they unfriend you because of this, you don't want them as your friend.
That's exactly right.
Exactly. We can't forget local public libraries either, guys. They're an extension of our education system, says one viewer. What titles should we be looking for, and what steps might we then take?
Okay, I have got a list of some titles here. Where are we?
Look, definitely read them out now when you get to them, Tine. But I'm wondering, I'm thinking it's a great idea that we post those titles that people need to look out for actually on the main channel. What do you reckon, guys?
Yeah, I'll just share the photos. So what's the T? What's the T? Just the letter T. LGBTQ rights, stories for boys who dare to be different, queer heroes.
Beautiful.
So there's some of them. There's no point in me holding them up. But just before you go, can I just share? I shared what they taught with the teaching the year 3s to 6, who you want to have sexual experiences with. Now, this one was for prep to year 2. Nothing's changed, remember. I'm still trying to get the evidence out of the curriculum, but it's pretty well hidden. So this was prep to year 2. We're talking babies, 5-year-olds. We usually assume a person's assigned sex decides their gender, but it's more complex than that. Most societies think there are only 2 genders that people identify with, either male or female, but this belief is called gender binary. There are lots of possible gender identities out there. People can identify as one of the binary genders, as moving between genders, or as no gender, or as another gender altogether. Now, that's for our preps. Now, they have an LBGTIQA plus ultimate dictionary. Get this, I bet you haven't heard this. Cisgender is a word that describes the gender experiences of people whose gender identity is similar to the sex assigned to them at birth. Cisnormativity is the assumption that people are cisgender and there is an expectation that cisgender is normal. Then we get to this one. Cissexism is when you're viewing cisgender as the norm and you consider it to be superior to other identities through prejudice and discrimination. So right from back there, they're teaching kids that anyone who thinks that there are only 2 genders are using prejudice and they're discriminatory. So that's the sort of thing they're going through. And I could read some of the, sex games that were there for the year 9s and 10s, but honestly, they're sickening. They're sickening.
I'll tell you.
So we can't let it go.
We can't let it go. They know, see, that the sociological surveys and tests over tens of thousands of test subjects over hundreds of different societies and different countries around the world on these topics has been done. The statistics are in. The game these people are playing is dangerous and wrong. It's not supported by science. It's not supported by by psychology. When they did these tests, they thought that it would prop them up. Okay, but we know that they got, the psychologists got totally surprised. When they did the tests, they found out that people just naturally work out who they are. It takes time, and it's difficult through your teenage years. For some people, they have a lot of difficulties and sometimes into early adults, and some people take until they're 30, maybe 35 to figure out who they are. But eventually, we all work out who we are. And now what they're trying to do is they're trying to brainwash the kids with these dangerous, stupid ideologies. They are going to confuse the children more than anything.
Absolutely.
And it's going to backfire on them. This type of depravity, this type of filth, this type of improper thinking and very bad leadership, it's going to backfire on them. And I think it's our personal responsibility, each one of us as an individual, to not cry for our rights, but look for what our responsibility to the children is, fulfill that responsibility. And I cannot wait to force feed these morons the fruit of their labours. They're not going to like it.
Yeah. There's one of our listeners says there's a fantastic website out there that people might find interesting. It says gaysagainstgrooming.com. And they believe that there's an LGBT people and parents out there who are also against what is going on in our schools and our society. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our show this evening. I do want to thank you, team, very much for your passion and commitment in going through disinformation. Just like Kim, our fellow TAP and executive, says, you are an amazing, beautiful lady with courage and tenacity that is second to none. So blessed to have you, not only on the TAP admins, but the TAP team and the team up there in Mackay and the Birri Gubba as well. They're even more blessed to have you there as the Minister for Education. So we want to thank you so much for sharing with us what you've uncovered. I'm sure this is not the only chat that we're going to be having with you. These topics are going to be ongoing. We're going to continue this, guys, next week with Trumpet Dan. But thank you so much for joining us and for sharing everything that you've uncovered, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again sometime soon. Thank you, Kent. Thank you, Lance. And to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for participating tonight and for all your hot questions. Like, we've never had so many questions on a Triple Chat before, but obviously it is a hot topic and it is something that we will continue to explore and develop. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time on Triple Tap.
And
bye
please bring out the evidence. Bring out the evidence.
Bring out the evidence.
Thanks, guys.
We'll just shout
everyone.
that number again, Tine, 0491 016 141. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye
Okay.
now.
Bye. See ya.
Cheers, guys.